there! I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be talking about tips for learning a language. So I had taken Spanish in middle school and Chinese this year. So these are just some tips that worked for me. They may not necessarily work for you, but I hope it helps you out. In the background here, I am writing some Chinese notes from my first year class because honestly they were all over the place at the beginning of the year. And so I'm doing this with a red Bic pen, a Crayola Super Tip, and a random pen that I politely borrowed from a hotel and never gave back. Like my other video, my first tip is to do it with friends because not only is it more fun, but doing everything, well, almost everything, with friends makes it better. You can support and help each other, and you can also share resources. Let's say somebody made some flashcards and you can share them around and help all of you to succeed together. And it keeps you more accountable because then you'll have other people that are doing things with you, so you're more likely to do them if everyone around you is doing them. So my next tip is to do conversations. So you can either do them with a partner or with a group. So ask each other questions back and forth, quiz each other, make stories, come up with practice tests. You can also talk to native speakers of the language because you'll be able to learn from them more. And the way that you get better at a language is by actually speaking it and writing it and reading it, like actually doing it, you know? And of course, it's also fun to interrogate your friends, so that's another plus. My next tip is to listen to songs. So whether it's an educational song made for learning the language, or if it's just songs that you would hear on the radio in that language. An advantage is that you can loop it as many times as you want, and some of those songs can be so catchy that after you listen to it like once, it's stuck in your brain and then you'll never forget how to pronounce things because then you'll always just be thinking about that song. And so that helped me a lot to memorize some of the phrases in Chinese. But this method works best for auditory learners because, well, auditory learners learn the best from listening to things, so makes sense that they would benefit from songs the most. But anyone can listen to a song and also learn from it. So my Chinese teacher would be playing songs from this channel called Chinese Buddy every time we did a warm-up, so like every single class period. And it got so catchy that people were singing it during lunch, people were singing it on the way to school, on the way home from school. Like, it just, got stuck in your brain. And I still remember how most of the tunes go and how most of the lyrics go because we just listened to it so many times that it's, engraved in our memory. One of my favorite tips. So, my next tip is to watch videos. So, this could be, again, educational videos, movies, shows, dramas. I watched a lot of Chinese dramas this year. And even though you're not going to know all of the words that the characters are saying, you can kind of pick out pieces. And especially if you watch it with subtitles, which I don't know why you wouldn't be watching it with subtitles, but you do you. You can kind of hear how native speakers pronounce it and then match it to the English word, so you can kind of form in your head, oh, this means that, you know? And the good thing about videos and media and stuff is that you can rewatch that over and over again as many times as you want. So it's very convenient. And videos work really well for visual or auditory learners because they have visuals and they have audio. Who would have guessed? In middle school, we watched Shrek in Spanish, and I learned the word for donkey in Spanish, which I don't remember anymore, unfortunately. But it was really cool at the time to be able to watch a movie that you've already seen, but in another language. And so I actually learned quite a few words from that. So I also highly recommend this tip as well, if you have the time. So flashcards, you knew it was going to be on here somewhere, here it is. So you can either make digital or physical flashcards. It really depends on what you prefer and what works better for you. But what I do recommend is to find a group of people that will also help you. So productive people, right? So you guys can split up the task of making flashcards, and not only will you have more variety, but you'll also have more flashcards to study from, which really helps because you guys can share them with each other and all benefit from it. So during my freshman year this year, we would make Quizlets or Quizzies and share the link around so then everyone could benefit from it, right? And because of this, I personally prefer digital flashcards, which I did try physical flashcards at the beginning of this year, but I found that it was just harder for me to make them because it was I have to take out my index cards, take out my physical notes, take out my pens and stuff and write this and then flip it over right on the back. And if that works for you, that's great, but it just personally, I didn't carry all of my flashcard things all the time. Most of the time, they were in my locker, right? So I never really was good at keeping up with making physical flashcards because I just found digital to be easier because I could log into my Quizlet account because I did use Quizlet, log into it on my laptop, on my phone, on a tablet or something, and just make them. And so that was really easy, and you can also just grab pictures from the internet since I'm not that great of an illustrator. So that was personally my thing. And it's also easier to collaborate with other people because, you can share the links, that kind of thing. So yeah, but if you prefer physical flashcards, which you probably do remember it better because you're writing it down physically, but for me, convenience just is a little bit more important than that. And I can study them in the morning on the ride to school or on the bus or just anywhere I have free time, and I wouldn't have to carry an entire deck of cards, So my next tip is to use a whiteboard, chalkboard, tablet, iPad, whatever, to practice writing in that language because you'll, one, be saving paper, and also it'll be easier to organize your stuff related to that class if you don't have just a bunch of practice papers around everywhere. So this mainly can apply to languages like Chinese, where you have to draw out characters and actually practice forming them, right? But it could also work for other languages too. I could imagine middle school me using a whiteboard to practice writing words and not forgetting the accents, because accents are the bane of my existence. Also, a lot of classes do the whole, okay, write this word in this language and then hold up your whiteboard. So you'll be able to get practice doing it quickly at home before the class actually starts. This might sound a little confusing, but what I mean is to look at the word or phrase you're trying to remember and break it down. So this mainly helped me in Chinese because we have characters, so you can kind of divide the character into 3 separate parts to remember, and that can help. But you can also look and see what it resembles. So for example, the character that means big in Chinese looks like a person holding their arms out, right? So if you see it, then it can be oh, that means big. In Spanish, what you can also do is sometimes the word looks like the English word. So for example, the word interesante, please forgive my Spanish, it means interesting, in English, and it looks and sounds similar to it. So this doesn't work for all words, but it does work for some words. So this one's thrown around a lot, but it's true. Don't be afraid to ask questions, since that's how you can learn. If you don't understand, that makes it more difficult to learn and succeed, because you just don't understand. And I understand because I've been there before. I'm so afraid of asking questions because I used to think that everyone in the room was judging me, that I wasn't smart enough if I was asking a question and what if I asked a stupid question? But there's really not a stupid question. I don't know how to phrase it, but it's you should never think your question is stupid, because there is someone else most of the time, at least one or even more people in that room that you're sitting in that has the same exact question as you. So be brave, be confident, and ask it, because they are probably too afraid to ask it too. And I'm really gonna try this year to do better than last year and actually ask questions and not just send my friend as a sacrifice. So to clarify, I don't mean that you should make mistakes on purpose. I mean that you should not be afraid or embarrassed or scared over making mistakes, because you're learning and everyone's learning, and that's normal. The important thing to do is to learn from them and do better next time. Don't beat yourself up over those tiny mistakes. Pick yourself off the ground when you fail, because it is a really good learning experience. And some of the best lessons that I've been taught have been when I've failed at something. It's also cliche, but try your best, because even though you think it's wrong, at least you gave it a shot, and that's what really matters. So my last tip is pretty obvious, but practice. Practice makes perfect. If you don't practice the language, you're not going to master it. There's no workaround to it, you just have to do it. But what you can also do, in addition to practicing by reading textbooks, watching things, is speaking and listening to native speakers, since you can kind of hear their tone, their speed, their pronunciation, and so you can learn from that, because not everything taught in classes is what is used commonly on the streets, so that's a good thing to know. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what I do, please feel free to check me out on Instagram and Tumblr. I post new videos on Mondays and Fridays until school starts. And remember, every day is a new opportunity. Bye!